Welcome to task, you guys.
Right
here is Mark Treu, and I'm just going to read off a little bit about him. He's a business owner and entrepreneur with experience in leadership training, information systems, printing, publishing, art licensing, sales, and sales management. His specialties is leadership training, information systems management, system administration, new products development, business development, sales management, new product development, imports, and sourcing. And he's a friend of the Red Barn, and he's a potential on our board. I was told to tell him that. And then and he's going to help us once we open the new bunkhouse with some fireworks and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So
We're going to try if we can get the permit set. We're still working on that. But.
We're good. Without further ado, Mark.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. And let me start off by just saying what an honor it is to be here with all of you today. We have the amazing privilege of being just above the Red Barn offices across the street here, and it's been awesome to get to know a number of you. Some of you I get more of a chance to get to talk to and to meet than others, and it's been awesome, amazing for us, and love the program here. You called me a friend of Red Barn Farms. Absolutely. We love what's going on here. We love all of you guys and are super excited to be in such close proximity to an organization like Red Barn. Our objective at the Arbinger Institute is really to turn the world outward. It's to achieve impact in families. And we, as an organization, saw that from the very beginning, the best way that we could have that kind of impact in families was to focus on people in their place of business. But really our objective is to help people make a better connection with other individuals, to help them make a real connection. It's more than just words back and forth, but it's a sense of who we are and get a sense of understanding of who they are. And when we have that kind of connection, what we can achieve together goes way beyond anything that I think the real world today imagines. I think you guys are getting a sense for that here at Red Barn Farms, and that's something we're trying to deliver to businesses across the world. So I was invited to talk about a couple of things that the lessons that I've learned in my business career, and perhaps give you some ideas of some mistakes to avoid, and then just kind of have a conversation back and forth if you guys have questions for me. And how much time do you guys have? Is it?
As much time as you need.
Okay, so if I go past 4 hours, just somebody wave your hands and tell me to stop talking. We'll just go for a bit, and I'll give you guys a chance to ask questions if you have any, and we'll go from there. But look, my background, I was born in California, moved up here when I was 4 years old, and I grew up in Farmington, Utah. This is my hometown. I remember when all of this was nothing but like 1982 underwater flooded land, right? So that's where I grew up. When I was 15 years old, I had a passion for two things. One was business, and the other was music. I thought I was either going to be a rock star or I was going to go and start a business somewhere. Well, about halfway through my 15-year-old year, I decided to start a company of my own with a couple of friends, building and selling computers. Desktop computers were still brand new in a lot of homes, and we saw an opportunity to make those and realized that it actually wasn't that difficult to go out and buy parts. And it's amazing when you're 15 years old, back in the early 90s, and you're submitting credit applications to new parts providers, you can get a pretty significant line of credit without ever showing an ID. And we did. We secured about $250,000 of credit with an organization that allowed us to buy, as 15-year-olds, parts for computers, build servers, and then sell them to local businesses here in Utah. It was great until it wasn't. As kids, there were a lot of things we didn't know, a lot of mistakes that we made, and we made commitments that we simply couldn't keep, and that was a tough lesson for us to learn back then. And as a result, we had to shut things down, but just in time, I went on to the next thing, started a job for Sears, operating in their technical support team. We would do an internet help desk for a thing called Prodigy, which was a bulletin board. Before the days of popularity on the internet, we'd service these bulletin boards out there, and people would use their dial-up connection to get access to things like stock quotes and news and the Wall Street Journal before they could get that on the internet. Did that for a couple of years, and then I served an LDS mission down in Brazil. Had to come home early from that after I was mugged and shot while on my mission. It was a tough experience, but it taught me a lot about how to respond to violence, and had all sorts of experiences along with that in my recovery. And then after that, started a software company with some of my best friends down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And we made some pretty great ideas, had some pretty great minds that we brought together to create the software, and it exploded overnight. And once again, as a 22-year-old managing a company of 500 employees, I made some pretty darn big mistakes. What I failed to understand was the connection between people. And that simple misunderstanding on my part led me to misjudge others, to not put trust where I should have put it, and to not consider the opinions of other people. I thought, hey, I'm a 22-year-old kid, and I've got this big company, I can do anything. And I saw myself above everybody else that worked with me and for me. And it was my actions alone that drove that company into the ground. A very successful company that led to big mistakes, me not listening to the right kind of people, and me not trusting the right kind of people to its ultimate failure. Now look, we survived it, and business is all about failing and failing fast. You try one thing, and if it doesn't work, you move on to something else. So my wife, still a young family, said, hey, it's my turn. Let's try our hands at my kind of business. So that's where the art side of things came on. She was an artist, and I was a salesperson and a technology person, so we found a way to sell her products and to license them to businesses all over the world. So what we do is we take her designs, and rather than just saying, hey, we're going to paint a painting and sell it in a gallery one time, we're going to put it on things like calendars. And at the time, scrapbooking was huge. So she started designing scrapbooking paper. You're thinking, wow, that's scrapbooking paper, really? But we licensed her designs in about 12 different companies who had about 40% of all the market share in the scrapbooking market, which at the time was over a $200 million market. And so we were able to make a pretty good run of that, and then people stopped scrapbooking. We had to move on to other things. We started doing designs on things like clothing, children's toys. We started doing children's books. We started a publishing company. We started a screen printing company to make clothing. And we just tried anything and everything we could to expand our reach and to try out new products that could potentially be successful. Well, for all of you that were alive in 2008, you remember what happened then. We hit a massive economic downturn, and for me, it was the most catastrophic event in my business career. I had a company of about 130 employees, and we went from that to being about 10 employees in the course of a year, and then over the next 2 years, down to just me and my wife. We lost everything. And once again, I made some bad decisions about overextending myself, about not trusting the right people. And as a result, the beautiful dream home that I built for me and my 4 children and my pregnant wife, we lost that home. So I took my pregnant wife and 4 kids, and we moved into my parents' basement. Who loves to do that? Like, isn't that the best? And we shared that basement with my grandma, who was not super happy to have us there. That was a year, probably the toughest year of my life, to have to fall from where I felt like I'd been and to lose so much and to see my business completely fail. We tried everything. We went into every single market we could possibly think of with the skills that we had and tried all these different things. Like I said, screen printing, which didn't work. We tried marketing, which didn't work. We tried advertising, just different products that didn't work. We tried capitalizing on our licensee network to increase and create a distribution channel. That didn't work. And after failure after failure after failure, I finally said, okay, maybe I wasn't meant to be a business owner. And so I went and got a job. And the only job I could find in post-2008 era was a job selling stuff in Colorado. So I picked up my family, we moved out to Colorado and took a job there. I also took with me about $1.5 million of personal debt. Because when my business failed and my clients didn't pay their bills that they owed me, I'm the one who got saddled with all that debt. All the risk I took smacked me in the face, and I thought, how in the world am I ever going to dig out of this? It took me about 3 years to really build up the business that I took a job in, and fortunately, I was connected with some great people out there who gave me some opportunities to really work hard and kind of earn my way up the ranks. And I quickly got to a point where I could earn some income, and I dropped every single dollar back into paying off the debt that I had. So my wife and I and our 4 kids, we lived in like 800 square feet of this teeny, dinky little house, and it was funny because at work, I'd have coworkers who say, hey, I see how much you're making, I see how much you're selling. what's up with your car? What's up with your house? They'd asked all sorts of questions. What they didn't realize is that I was putting everything I had paying off this debt. It took me 6 years to pay that off, which I think for many people will be a lifetime of work, but I was able to find ways to make that happen. A couple of years later, I ran into the Arbinger Institute. And what the Arbinger Institute provided for me was answers to questions that I had for a long time that I couldn't figure out about the connections between people, about real relationships, about real communication, where I actually see the people I'm talking to not as below me, but as an equal to me. And not even as above me either, but where your needs, your hopes, your fears, your dreams, all of that matters to me as much as my fears matter to me. And that taught me a whole new way of operating, a whole new way of working, of applying the skills that I had learned to a new kind of business. And that's when I came on board at the Arbinger Institute. And I've been at the Arbinger Institute now for just over 6 years, and it's been awesome. I think we all get a sense for participating in that kind of work and helping other people, and it drives us in different ways. We get excited about different things. So I want to share a couple of things that I learned along the way. The first thing is, when you're in that kind of relationship, that is absolutely applicable to everything you do in any job you do and any business you run. When somebody's out there shopping for services that you might provide, whether it's construction work, business, sales, marketing, no matter what it is, they are actually buying first you. They want you. And if they don't want you, then they don't want the products you're selling. If you can make that connection with them, and if you can bring everything you brought with you in the past, all your mistakes, all your successes, all the lessons that you learned, then you can stand out, and that you being who you are now becomes your primary differentiator. And we talk about differentiators all the time in my line of work because there's 1,000 people out there selling the same thing I want to sell, or at least the same ideas. But why do they buy from us? Why they're going to buy from you is because you're going to bring all of that with you. And absolutely the most valuable piece that you bring with you are the mistakes. It's the stuff I screwed up in the past. It's the businesses that I led and failed. Because when I talk about what it takes to actually have a successful business or to do something well, they know and they can trust that I know what the lack of success looks like, that I know what failure looks like, and that I know how to avoid that. Okay? I think that is one of the most valuable things that I see and I look for when I'm hiring people. I ask the question, tell me about your biggest failure. How did you get through it? How did you overcome it? Okay, now tell me about your greatest success. What did your biggest failure teach you about success? That is a massive differentiator. And that's what people want to buy. They want to buy it from all of us. They want to have that connection. They don't want the guy that's perfect, that's never slipped, that's never fallen. What they want is the person who actually knows what it's like to have that happen and knows how to build something better out of it. And that's really the best piece of advice I can give to anybody in business. Bring your whole self to the table. No matter what job you're going to do, it matters. And it matters big time. And you will garner more trust in them when you show that and show where you're at than anybody can who tries to hide from what they do or tries to paint this perfect picture of all their successes in life. It just doesn't work well. People feel in the moment, no matter what you say, they're going to react to your mindset. They're going to react to who you really are, not to the fake person on the outside. Anyway, I don't know. Any questions about that? Any thoughts? How do you guys feel? Do you agree? Who's had an experience like that? Go ahead.
I just have a question. Your greatest failure is also your greatest success that you come over, right?
Yeah.
When you ask that question, there's a lot of times them telling you about their greatest failure, their greatest success is how they overcame that.
I'm sorry, say it again.
So when you ask the question, what was your greatest failure?
Yeah.
And you say, well, tell me about your greatest success. Are those hand in hand? Like, my greatest success?
Yeah. Absolutely. Sometimes that's the case, and it's always great when that happens. I'm sorry, I'll try and stay in the center here. Other times, I've found that people haven't yet had their greatest success. They're maybe still in recovery from their biggest failure, trying to figure things out. And I'm actually get excited sometimes about that because I think, okay, you know what? Their greatest success might just be as a member of my team. And that's what I want for them. I want them to feel like, hey, you know what? I've learned from these things. Here are the qualities I bring to the table. Here's what I'm ready to do. And then I'm just going to sit back and watch it happen. Give them the resources that they need and watch their greatest success play out right before my eyes. Great question. What else? Any other thoughts on that?
I like what you said about the best thing that you take with you is your failures. And I think for me, myself, that's why I get mistaken. I always want to talk about the successes or talk about all the things that I'm good at. But I think when you bring, I don't know, I just never looked at it from that point of view.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's not about necessarily the failures. You want to talk about your success, and don't be afraid to tell the truth about the things you've accomplished, right? Tell people what you know how to do, and show your greatest work in a portfolio. Say, hey, look, here's what we can accomplish for you. But what adds contrast to that is the area. Say, hey, look, this is what we can do. Here's where I came from. You want to see where I started? Check out this project I did 10 years ago. We don't do it that way anymore. We know what it's like to do it that way, and I'm sure you want to avoid that like the plague. So let me show you what we've turned it into today. Here's what we do. Here's how we do it, right? I had a contractor who came up to me that was bidding on a project that I was working on a couple of years ago, and he did that exact same thing. He's like, let me show you a house I built 25 years ago. I'm like, Mike, why are you showing me this house? Because I want you to see what we've learned in the last 25 years. Then he walked me through this amazing home that he built. He's like, this is the kind of quality that we're committed to. We know what it's like to create that. We're going to create this, and this is what we can do for you. And it was so motivating to me. I'm like, yes, sign me up. Give me this guy. That's what I'm looking for. So don't be afraid to give people the truth about who you are. I mean, it shows that you're genuine. It shows that you're real. And we all want a real connection with people, right? Yes. And what other questions do you guys have? What do you guys want to do? What do you guys think about?
Just want to be happy.
You want to be happy, okay? All right.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said, and I wrote down, I think a lot of us, just because of the kind of people we are, recovering addicts, like guys in recovery, are pretty good at selling ourselves.
Okay.
I think a lot of us have that skill. How would we go about learning how to capitalize on that?
Learning how to capitalize on selling yourself, well, look, if you know how to sell yourself, then you just got to have skills to go along with it, right? And you got to figure out what you love to do and what you're good at. A lot of people run around confused, not knowing kind of what they want to do because they don't know what they're good at. I mean, I've done some construction, or I grew up trying out a whole bunch of things. Try out everything. Try everything. But I think the second piece of good advice I give to people is plan your life. Everything in your life. Make it about accomplishing something. Even if you're just gonna sit down and take a break and relax, plan to take a break and relax. And I'd say this, don't watch TV. It's like, I sit there and I look at my friends from high school. It's like, hey, did you see that? I can't even name them. That latest episode or whatever. I'm like, no, I didn't. And I look, if you relax by watching TV, that's fine. Make it a planned event, and it's structured such that it's got a start time and it's got a stop time, right? Always be looking. If you haven't figured out what you love to do yet, that is your most important job right now. If you haven't figured out what you're good at, there's nothing more important than figuring that out. So you can go and present yourself to somebody and say, here's what I'm good at, and let me show you how I do this. Right? If you're like, well, I'm just sort of good at everything, and I don't really know what I want to do, people are going to look at you and say, well, okay, here's an opportunity for you to go and figure that out, which isn't very valuable, isn't going to earn you great income, and isn't going to make you very happy. So try it out. If you got to take one job and do it for a couple months, and you're like, I hate this. Well, then look for another job. Don't be afraid to change it up. We've all got risks associated with changing out jobs, and it's tough, especially if you're trying to provide for a family or to provide for yourself. But do it fast. Just make fast moves until you find out what you're going to do, and then you put all your effort into that. And don't give up on yourself. And whatever you do, don't hate something just because you're not immediately good at it. Give yourself a chance, right? Try again. But look, I've had like 10 careers. I don't feel like I'm that old. Maybe I'm older than a lot of you here, but it's just, try stuff out. Anyway, any other questions about that? Look, I do believe in that. The whole TV thing, for me, it was video games. You know, I was like a super techie nerd in high school, and there was this game called Diablo. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. It was the first massively multiplayer online game that I ever really engaged with. And I remember in 1996 when it came out, I was hooked. Like, dude, I can play with people on the other side of the planet. I just dial up on my modem and do this. And I saw probably 6 months of my life get wasted on that because I got addicted to that. There's all sorts of addictions, right? Don't let time be spent. Too much time be spent, I should say. For once in a while, it's good to get out and play a game or two, but just make it structured. Set limits for yourself. Be disciplined. Because I promise you, 90% of the competition you have out there for any job is not nearly as disciplined as you can be. If you can be disciplined in what you're doing, you shine like a rock star. You go into any job and you're going to just have upward mobility from the very get-go because they're going to recognize that, hey, I'm disciplined, I'm working hard, I'm focused, I care about my work. And it doesn't matter if you're terrible at your work, you're still going to shine way above so many of the rest. So just, focus on this stuff. What else? Like seriously, what do you guys want to do with your lives? Like work-wise?
General contractor.
General contractor, awesome. What else? Like the whole world needs you right now, right?
Geologist.
Geologist, awesome. Like if you want to be a general contractor, try and finding one right now is like impossible. So that's a great idea. What else?
I want to be RN.
Okay, registered nurse, right? What else? Blacksmith. Okay, cool. You got a lot of ideas. What else do you guys want to do?
Mostly.
Sorry, welder?
Yeah.
And then
Music.
music. What do you want to do in music?
I want to do it all. I want universal. From
Awesome. We should connect after.
blues to rap to rock, country. I want to do it all. Man.
Awesome. I love that. So music is my second well, it's my first passion, but
Business management.
business management. Awesome. What else? Anybody else? So look, every single area that you're talking about, in my opinion, has certain aspects that are exactly the same. You talked about being in music. Music is a tough industry. Okay, one of my best friends, he just started a new record label, right? And he's out there looking for artists, and it is brutal. It is brutal. And it's almost like you're either at the top or you're at the bottom, and there's no middle ground for success in music. I did work a couple of years as a studio musician. I was a drummer, and I had this band at my wannabe rock star years. And what I learned pretty quick was that in that industry, I got jobs over people who were twice as good as me simply because I was dependable. There's a guy named Mark Treu. He was the director of entertainment at Lagoon, and I worked there in entertainment playing the drums in their center stage for a couple of years. And I wanted to get into the studio circuit where I could actually start playing, doing recording on advertisements and movie-themed songs and all that, right? I wanted to be a studio musician. So I went down to LA East Studios where I applied for the job. When I walked in, I sat there and watched 3 other people audition before me, and I was like, oh, I am way out of my league. I knew how good I was, and I knew I wasn't a tenth as good as any of them. But I walked in the front door and to sit down behind the drum set to play, and the director said, hey, Mark, oh, hey, good to see you. Hey, guys, we're done. We're done. Yeah, don't even worry about playing. Hey, Saturday morning, 10 o'clock is when our first session is. Can you be there? Sure. What comes from that is it's not about what you know, it's who you know, right? But the reality is that who you know aspect of the entertainment industry comes down to trust and dependability. I'd rather have a guy that shows up on time, because when he's not on time, or if he was out drinking the night before and shows up late to a shift, I've got 25 people that I'm each paying a ton of money to be there, and directors and actors and all the rest, who are all there waiting around on one person. What I need is somebody who can get the job done with their talents, but is dependable, can be there on time, and is honest, right? And so if you can get those things, you take that with you, you'll get twice the jobs of anybody else. You work the business side of the angle, which is all about that, right? It turns into, hey, I know this guy. So it is who you know. And business is the same way. You build business relationships out there. You're going to be a general contractor. You go out there. You're going to build trust with clientele. And it's not just trust with those that buy from you. It's trust with the other contractors who are going to support you in your business. Because right now, I can get a general. What I can't get is subs, right? Trying to find subs who've got choices between 30 different jobs. Am I going to take a job from a general contractor who I know pays my bills when I send him to him, or the guy that yeah, last time I worked with him, it took him like 3 months to pay me, right? You can't be that guy, right? And if it comes down to you paying your subs or you having food on your table, you got to pay your subs. Otherwise, you're never going to have food on the table, right? That dependability matters everywhere, in music and in general contracting. You said you were, no, you didn't say. No, you said a couple things. So you said, hey, I want to be a GC, I want to be a welder. What else did you say? Blacksmith. What those just different areas that you're interested in?
I'm really interested in gemstones and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah?
I'm really interested in metallurgy, like
Oh, cool.
silver and stuff. And I've also apprenticed for a couple of years to be a blacksmith because I like the horse fairing and stuff like that. And I'm just really interested in jewelry and stuff like that.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, find a way to combine all those three and do something nobody else is doing. Just make it happen, right? That would be awesome. And you said an RN, right? So I've got a couple relatives that are RNs. That's awesome work. Where do you plan to go to school to certify as an RN?
I think it's going to be a process, but
Yeah.
Weber State is cool.
Yeah, so I've got a cousin that certified as an RN at Weber State. Fantastic program. And Utah's a great place to do that. A lot of people get educated here and then go elsewhere because they can make more money elsewhere. But that's awesome. No, great work. I worked as a phlebotomist at LDS Hospital for 2 days before I got fired. Why did I get fired? Because I was late. Yeah. I was late. 5 people were depending on me. I wasn't there. I got fired. So, what other questions do you guys have? Anything else I can help you guys with? What do you think? What do you guys think about every day when you're here working? What motivates you guys? What drives you? Yeah.
I'm curious what you guys do on a daily basis upstairs.
What do we do? Well, it depends on which part of the building you're in, but we have our sales and marketing divisions. I've primarily led those divisions of the company in sales and marketing and operations. And then we have our creative division, which makes all of our video. They make all of our training materials and our courses and our printed materials. They develop our websites and the tools that we use. And then on top of that, we have our support team that supports both our sales team and does a lot of what we call sales enablement. They enable the sales team to do the work that they do. And then remotely, we have about 30% of our staff live in either DC or in Kansas City or all over the country. And so our remote teams are more on the sales side of things, working with the federal government and setting up government contracts and building, you think about a general contractor's job here. You sign a contract with a buyer who's going to have certain terms and they're going to pay you at the end of that work. Well, to do federal government work, there's about 1,000 more boxes you got to check. And so we got to have somebody that first of all understands government contracting, understands what we're committing to, because we might say, well, yeah, we can build a house for you, federal government, and they're going to say, well, are you going to use this material? Are you going to hire only this kind of labor? Or we're going to do background checks on everybody in your staff. We're going to conduct this kind of work. We're going to ensure that you have data security for all the systems you process. We need people who manage all of that. And so a lot of our time is spent just managing government contracts, selling to our clients and supporting them. Our sales guys don't just sell our material, they have to be capable of delivering on that material. Because oftentimes somebody calls us on the phone, they want to know what we do before they're going to buy. They want to know that we actually have something that can help them. And my guys have to be capable at helping them through some of their challenges. Oftentimes those first couple of calls go really deep into challenges that they're having in business. And this is one area where calling upon your past mistakes is absolutely critical. When I sit down to somebody and I say, hey, look, I understand what you're going through. You're facing this massive economic challenge as a result of decisions that were made. Let me tell you about some mistakes I've made in the past and how we worked through those and how we overcame them. People like to hear that. They like to hear that, okay, yeah, this guy is not just reading from a book. He's talking about his own personal experiences. Experience matters for everything. Don't just tell other people's stories. Tell your story, right? Let them see who you are. That's what we do upstairs. We have a lot of video work that we're doing. It's fun to see the videos that we produce to bring in the stories of people like you. We come out and say, hey, because look, we teach people how to do stuff, but the real magic in our work is seeing people implement that in their own way. Because no matter how many times I teach something about our work, everybody's going to have their own version of their story of how they implement that in their business. And to go out and capture that story on video and share it with others allows them to learn from their mistakes, learn from their successes. That's what we do upstairs. So any other questions about upstairs? If you guys ever want to see it, let me know. I'll give you a tour. Take you around and show you around. I mean, it's not that great. It's just an office, right? But it's still kind of fun. What else? What do you guys think? Anything? Yeah, go ahead.
I read Self-Deception.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to read Leadership.
Yeah.
I think that's the second book, Leadership by Self-Deception.
Yeah, Leadership and Self-Deception and The Outward Mindset, or The Anatomy of Peace? Okay, Anatomy of Peace. Great.
I just want to hear more about Arbinger. I mean,
Yeah.
it piqued my interest, but I don't know much about it.
Okay. Yeah, so look, Arbinger has been around for a long time. We were founded by a man named Terry Warner, and back in 1979, who put together a lot of ideas about the concept of self-deception, this idea that I'm actually my own biggest problem. And he put together a lot of material around that to build really what was the foundation for real connection between people, to actually see the difference between me just talking to you versus actually getting to know who you are and connecting with you in a new, elevated way. So he started the business side of things, somewhere there in the 80s, and then really started to take form in the year 2000 with the writing of Leadership and Self-Deception and the formation of a business that focused on training of people and teaching people how these philosophies and these ideas could actually change their lives. So early on, other people became aware of that, and we got a couple of really big contracts to go in and teach businesses how to develop a better culture, how to think about the interactions between individuals in a way that actually makes them more productive. Because, who here's had a job with people they just hated? Did you ever wake up in the morning with that job and were you ever excited to go to work there? No, you're not. We know that industry data tells us that job satisfaction, that 88% of people cite their relationship with their boss as the number one contributor to their job satisfaction. This totally blew me away. I always thought, well, no, I like working with the people I work with. But the reality is, if I work for a boss that sucks, my job's going to suck, right? And many of you are going to have the opportunity to be the boss. So what kind of boss are you going to be? The kind of boss that somebody actually is committed to? And how do you be that kind of a boss? It's about how I see my people. It's about how I treat my peers. It's about how I treat my boss, right? Am I working with them in a way that invites them to work with me in the right way? Have you guys read about collusion? That the idea that I'm actually, what I'm doing is actually inviting in somebody else the very behaviors that I despise, and then what they're doing is inviting in me the very behaviors that they despise, and it just goes around and around. We are involved in this massive collusion right now. You see it everywhere you go. It's on television. All of the race issues that we're facing right now are rooted in collusion. This idea that, hey, I'm inviting the very behaviors in others that I hate, that cause those problems for me. Well, the only way to break that is to stop the cycle, right? You have the power to stop it. Each of us do, right? And that's what our work is focused on, is teaching people and giving them the tools to actually learn how to do that. Now look, I am not the expert in all those things. I'll tell you right now. I was not brought to Arbinger because I'm this philosophical giant, okay? I was brought to Arbinger because they recognized that in order to get these ideas in other people's hands, we needed a business engine that could support that work. If you want the guy that's going to sit down and tell you all about the philosophies of Arbinger, who's going to dive deep on all that, who's a genius on all those things, that's Mitch Warner. He couldn't be here tonight, and I apologize that he couldn't, because he's great to listen to. But look, none of that work happens without the work that we do on the functional side, on the business side. And none of my work happens without all of that amazing, wonderful material that shines out there in the marketplace. So look, we're engaged in helping people, taking our material and our ideas to the world. And it's hard work, because what we're asking people to do is not simple. We try to make it simple by making it easier to take smaller steps along the way. But what we're literally asking of people is to completely change the way they are, to see people that they've seen their entire lives in a completely different way. It's kind of like, I remember being a 15-year-old kid trying to sell computers to somebody, and we tried to sell these big businesses, and it was all over the phone, because if they ever saw that we were 15 years old, they'd never buy from us. But trying to convince them that their old way of doing systems was just causing them all sorts of problems, and to trust me that we had a better way, right? We'd go in and we'd totally uninstall the heart of their entire business. And when we show up on site, to remove their old systems, and they saw that we were kids, they were panicking. But in the end, we deliver a system that actually works, that has them thinking in a new way. You guys, if you're doing your work and you work with Arbinger, you have to basically convince somebody to change the very nature of who they are, to change the way they see other people, the way they work with them, to change their value system in many cases, and to start thinking in a completely different way with a new mindset. And that can sometimes be a painful journey. We've seen it lead people to significant amounts of pain as they recognize the pain that they've caused in other people's lives. I see it in myself all the time with my wife and my kids. I'll be talking to them, and I'm doing something that's just mean, and I don't think I'm being mean. I think I'm being dad of the year. I think I'm being husband of the year. And then somebody says something on the outside and says, hey, you realize you're doing this? And I'm like, oh, why do I have to keep learning the same stupid lesson of inwardness versus outwardness? And then I end up, I go to my wife and I say, hey, can we just pretend that the last 90 minutes didn't happen? And she's like, no, we don't get to pretend that today, Mark, right? And so I have to spend the next 3 days trying to recover from 90 minutes of stupidity, right? If I could just figure it out. But the reality is that none of us are perfect, right? We're all going to make mistakes like that. And that's part of the deal too, is to understand that, hey, you know what? We all have inwardness in us. We all have those moments where we turn inward, we start looking out after number one instead of seeing other people for who they are. It's okay to have that happen. It's about how we respond to that and how we try to correct that matters most. And when we do correct that, we start to reduce the number of times that we go that direction. And for me, that's what marital happiness is all about. I don't know about you guys, but anyway, yeah, what else?
So you said you were $1.5 million in debt.
Yeah.
6 years to pay it back. And so that seems pretty depressing.
Yeah.
And
pretty exciting too, though, to dig out that fast. But
so you didn't file bankruptcy?
Look, every accountant I ever talked to in those days said, Mark, this is what bankruptcy is for. And we just, I considered it seriously, and something inside me said no. Look, I don't know if you believe in God or not, but I felt very strongly like I was not to do that. That if I would commit myself, that I'd find another way. And I'm not saying that bankruptcy can't work or that it's bad. And it's not. I think it is bad for some people, and I think it's the wrong direction for many people. I think some people abuse that function. It was people who abused that function that were the reason I had over $1.5 million of debt, because I had sold product to businesses who are now in financial hard times. They resold the product I sold to them and didn't pay me for that product. I had $2.5 million of bad debt the last year we were in business, and that's what sunk me. I was able to cover that first $1 million, and the last I took with me where I went. So I wasn't going to do that. But look, in the new business, I found a great sector to operate in, where I could sell and that I could understand and know well. A couple of side gigs that took off, and I was able to make some revenue there. But the reality is, had I declared bankruptcy back then, there's no way I could do what I do today. There's no way we could have built this building back here, because I'm the one who financed it, right? Me and our partners and Rich Haas and the Red Bar, I could not have participated in that had I had a bankruptcy 8 years ago on my file, right? It just wouldn't have worked. So there are a lot of opportunities, little decisions that we make now impact everything we do in the future. And sometimes it's tough to know what to do, but and sometimes you're going to make mistakes. But you'll find that if you think about things carefully and you do your best, you'll start to see where, hey, I'm glad I didn't make that one mistake. I'm glad I didn't do this, because it enabled me to do something in the future.
So it sounds like your personal integrity was a huge motivation.
Oh, absolutely, right?
And so you didn't watch TV. That's amazing. But that sounds like, what else did you not do? Or what else do you do?
Look, I married an incredible woman. Guys, there's no other way to say it. I married somebody that would support me, and I support her. And it's a two-way street, right? We both have to help each other out. But I'll tell you what, no investment of time in your relationship with a spouse or a partner or your kids, none of that is wasted time. That all pays back in the highest dividends possible. But look, we have an understanding that we work hard in our family. And like we talked about TV is not a thing in our family. We've got TVs in our house, and we'll watch an occasional movie to relax and chill. But we try to be disciplined about that too. Say, hey, look, set a timer. And when that timer goes off, you get up. You don't hit the snooze button. You don't say, oh, it's okay. Dad's not going to see if I keep watching or if I keep doing this. I've got a 15-year-old daughter who I told her, hey, look, how are you going to provide for yourself in school? How are you going to pay your college tuition? She's like, well, Dad, aren't you going to pay my college tuition? Well, look, I probably could, but it doesn't mean I'm going to, right? I personally feel like, look, I'll tell you right now, I don't have a college degree, guys. I don't, right? I paid every dime of college I ever went through, but I started a business that started to go well, and I never finished that. Do I regret it? Sometimes, yeah. But the reality is, what I don't regret is paying my own way. I think that we do a disservice when we, for our kids these days, when we just give them everything that they want and pay all their tuition. Have them have a stake in it. I'll help them if they need it. But I expect them to earn their degree. If they're going to go to college, they darn well better know what they're going to study. And it had better not be underwater basket weaving. It better be something they can make a career out of, right? Right? Like something they can actually produce that will sell and allow them to provide for their families. And they got to know what they're doing. They got to find direction. And if they don't have a direction, well, then get about finding a direction, right? If you don't know where you're going, figure it out. Because if you're watching TV, you're not figuring out where you're going, right? And once again, doesn't mean you can't relax every once in a while. Take a break. Breaks are important. That's an important part of recharging, right? But don't let that be your life. Find a direction first. Yeah, go ahead.
So you said you lost your house, your dream house. You're going. I've been through some similar. When you go home and you see your wife and your kids and you see everything around you crumbling that you worked hard for. How did you not feel resentful? How did you not let that fester into your demise?
I didn't say I didn't do that. I don't know, man. I don't know. You just get up. That day when you shut the door on your house and you hold your kid's hand and you walk into mom and dad's basement and you put all four of your kids in one room, two of them in one, and then we had 2 bedrooms down there, and me and my other 2 kids in the room with us and my wife who's 8 months pregnant. Dude, it just sucks. It just does, right? But how you deal with that is you don't give up on yourself and you don't give up on your family. I think one of the biggest causes for failed relationships is that we give up on the others and we give up on ourselves. If you give up on something, the people you love, they know when you've given up on them, and they know even more when you've given up on yourself, right? We all have within us the power to do something great, but that power never comes to pass if we give up on ourselves. It just doesn't. You can't do anything. You wake up in the morning and you think, what do I have to live for? Why am I going to this lousy job? And look, I've had lousy jobs, right? When all that stuff was falling apart, I did stuff I'm not proud that I had to do. Not because I compromised on my integrity, but I hated those jobs, right? I mean, you do what it takes to get through, but just always look up. Optimism is like the best. Just be optimistic. Believe in yourself, okay? I mean, who wants to be around somebody that doesn't believe in themselves? Right? That, like, the surest pathway to failure is to believe that you're going to fail. Because if you believe you're going to fail, I promise you will, right? And it's tough to come up with that recipe sometimes. It's tough to figure it out, especially when you're in the middle of what really sucks. I mean, you're like sitting there going, well, the interest on my debt is more than the top 2% of income earners in the country in a year. How am I ever going to dig out of this? It's faith. Have it in yourself. So, and whatever you have to do to find that, it's different for everybody. But that's all I can say about it. Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah. What else do you guys think? What other questions do you have?
So you have guys that are selling material, right?
Yeah.
Selling the idea.
Yeah.
And then do you have guys that are out like teaching it, or do you guys? I know COVID's kind of probably thrown a monkey wrench in that.
Yeah.
But the Arbinger Institute has somewhere where you guys are actually like teaching the idea out there, hands-on training, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. So most of our
Do you ever switch?
Not as often sometimes, but more often than not, we find people who are really skilled at the sales mechanism who sell it, and then others who are really skilled at the delivery mechanism or the facilitation side of it who then teach it. Sometimes we've got guys that do a little bit of both, but more often than not, we have people that focus in on the skills that they're great at. Because being a generalist can be a great skill, but as your organization grows, and if you're a small business, being a generalist is like essential, right? You can't start a business without having good skills in a lot of different areas. But when you get into a business that grows, the only way you can achieve scalability is if you get people focused on individual tasks. They get really good at that, and then they pass off the next phase to the next individual, who then passes it off to the next. A large business can't grow if everybody's doing everything. So we do have to specialize. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, say somebody was to come in, could they do like both and figure out which one they're better at and decide which one they want to go?
Sometimes we get people who do one, and then after a while they're like, you know what, like I feel like I've done a good job here, but I'd really like to try that out. And we believe in setting up with somebody a career path for them that says, hey, look, if you're good at and you have skills in these areas and you're going to develop yourself here, let's give you a shot at trying it out. Now, it doesn't always work. Those opportunities have to align with the business needs. Otherwise, because we're not going to make up a business need to support somebody. That doesn't do them any good, and it doesn't do us any good, right? But so sometimes we change people around. I had an employee that started off in one line of work. He was a salesperson for us, and he was super passionate about international stuff. We transitioned over to international and found out he was really good at that, had a flair for it. So yeah, people can move around. You had another question I don't feel like I answered. I forgot what it was. Yeah, you said something in the beginning. What was it? No, maybe I answered it. That's okay. Yeah, anything else? Go ahead.
What does the word Arbinger mean?
When I find out, I'll let you know.
Sounds like messenger is what I think of, Gretel.
Yeah, so Arbinger is a German word. It's a last name. I think if I get the roots of the word right, that it was a play off of the word harbinger, right? Yeah, it's just a name and the company. I think there are others that can tell that story better than me. I apologize that I goofed on that, but I believe it's a play off the word harbinger, which is, you talk about the harbinger of truth, right? The bringer of that truth. And we wanted to be a vehicle for bringing really an important human truth to the world. I think that's what the birth of that name came from. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have job opportunities even if somebody has like a record?
Yeah, certain areas we can, because we're involved in certain government contractors. There are certain government contracts. There are limitations in certain areas that we can, because we get a background check on everything. But that's certainly something we always consider, and we have to look at the positions where that can work. But yeah, that comes up. I try to look at the whole person whenever I hire somebody, what skills they're going to bring, what experience they're going to bring. I don't hire all the people in our company. I've got about half the company reports through me and the other half through Mitch. But we coordinate together on almost every hire we make as a company. So yeah. Go ahead.
I came in a little late. Did you say something about web developers and videographers for your guys' business?
Yeah, so we have a software development team that handles our web development. We have a different video team that does all our videography. The software team, most of what we do is in ASPX and the Microsoft shop. We use Azure database services for our back end, and that's where all our websites are hosted. That's where all our content is hosted. That's of all the divisions of our company that will grow the fastest in the next 10 years. It will be our web software development, as well as, web software development, video, and our sales team. So yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for that kind of work. Yeah, what other questions you guys have? Anything else? All right, guys. If there's anything else I can do for you, just let me know. Sure appreciate being there with you and seeing you guys in the building. We're just upstairs, all right?
Awesome. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
we wanted to give you this. I know
Oh, cool.
you already have a Red Barn shirt, so this is a Sticky Bird shirt
Oh, cool. Thank you.
and a hat,
Oh, awesome.
and then some sticky bucks so you can come over and get some.
Oh, sticky bucks.
Thank you for spending your time here sharing with us.
I didn't know you had sticky bucks.
Yeah, we get, yeah. Hey, more, I know.
Thank you very much, man.